Hello, once again. I am Doc Rodden, and this is Horror News Radio, the official Gruesome Magazine podcast. Back with me again this week are the scariest, goriest, bloodiest co host on the net, and we are here to review Firestarter 2022 in theaters now and streaming on Peacock. Yes. Joining me tonight is award winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm the Firestarter, Twisted Firestarter.
No, I don't know the
Sorry,
reference.
That's a Prodigy song by Prodigy back in the day.
That
So.
yet again is still a wasted opportunity. They have yet to use it. I
What?
think someone did a fan video on
Hey.
YouTube to it. You know,
If you Bloomhouse, if you're listening, you want to automatically reboot it again. I'm available. That'd be the first thing I would do. I would lock in. Is let's use that song. That should have been at least used in the trailer or something.
yeah.
You know.
Something, right? Yeah. I'm totally unaware. I'm feeling very, very tiny
Yeah,
now. All right. Yeah.
Oh man.
All right. I'm just gonna go eat some. I
Go
guess
look-
I'll
go
go
look-
get some.
Look
Eat
it
some
up on
Jello
you-
with Kurtwood Smith and
Look it up
it'll
on
be fun.
YouTube.
Look it up on YouTube.
Go watch the music video on YouTube.
Mhm.
I will do that. I will do. All right. Let's welcome special guest host and film committee member of the New York City Horror Film Festival, Brian W. Smith. How you doing, sir? Why did I pronounce it that way? That's weird. But how you doing, Brian?
Well, it's in the spirit of the line readings in this movie.
Wow.
Oh,
Nice.
it almost sounded like you called him a fest devil.
Best devil.
Ooh.
Ooh. I
I'm
kind of
sure
like
you'd
that.
be okay with that.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for making me go to the movies and see this godforsaken thing in the theater. No, I'm kidding.
Good, man. Oh man, and Christopher, I guess you saw this at the Alamo, did you?
I watched on Peacock.
No, I watched it on Peacock too. I was like,
I was like, you know what? I'll just pay like $5 and watch it on Peacock. I don't know. I couldn't make myself go sit in the theater, which is kind of sad. If it was only playing in theaters, I would go. But I was like, I'll try Peacock out. You know, 'cause there's some stuff on there.
I
Okay,
went to
well-
hear the Carpenter soundtrack. I was like, let's hear it and where I'm supposed to hear it. And
That's one
I
of the
looked
better
around.
things
I
about
was
the
one of
movie,
4 people in the theater. And,
yeah, because this movie did horrible at the box office. It's yeah,
Well, they got some of my money.
Yep, they got some of your money.
You helped.
Yeah,
I helped.
We thank you, sir. Thank you.
I
All
paid for
right.
a bagel and crafty or something.
A bagel on the craft wagon. All right, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to give you our first impressions if you haven't figured that out already. And that will be spoiler free, and then we're going to dive into a discussion about the film. We will get into spoilers. There really isn't any. You've seen this movie decades ago. It's just a new one now. And then we'll wrap things up with our final thoughts, our score 1 to 5, and our favorite scene. And of course, we hope you like not only this review, but many others that we have on our site. Be sure to check them out. And if you like what you see, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share with a friend, and it will do wonders for us. And we thank you very much. And of course, above all, leave some comments down below. Let's take a look at the card, shall we? Bing. Oh, you like that special effect. All right, Firestarter 2022 from Blumhouse and Universal, available in theaters and on Peacock, beginning May 13th, Friday the 13th. Synopsis: a young girl tries to understand how she mysteriously gained the power to set things on fire with her mind. That is the worst synopsis ever. But hey, it is a synopsis. Directed by Keith Thomas, written by Scott Teems, and based on the novel by Stephen King, if you didn't know that. Cast includes Zac Efron, Kiera Armstrong, Sidney Lemmon, Michael Greyeyes, Gloria Reuben, and Kurtwood Smith, Red himself. Yes. Doing one of the better jobs in the film. All right, let's get into this, arguably. Brian, why don't you start us off with your initial impression of Firestarter 2022?
Well, yeah, my initial impression, of course, I'm a fan of the original, but I won't, compare too much. But so I went in with an open mind, and I like some of the darker aspects of how it started, and I was there to hear Carpenter's score, of course. I thought the performances were okay. I just think that the writing was a little clunky at times, and it's all building up to this big finale that we're all sort of preparing for, and it just kind of left me high and dry. But I mean, it was fine. The effects were okay, but ultimately, it's kind of lackluster. And I don't know if it was a projection in the theater, but did you have a problem with the cinematography? Well, you watched it at home, but in the theater, the cinematography was very dark and grainy, and I'm not sure if that was a choice or if that was just a projection in the theater. And it was kind of hurting my eyes in a lot of the scenes. And
Might have been the
yeah,
projector.
probably the projector. Yeah, but the performances could have bbeen a little more livelier, a little more heart to it, to the storyline. Because I know it's there. There is a heart to the story, and uh, yeah, I just by the end, I was just like, that's the ending they're going with, and I was kind of baffled by it. And yeah, that's pretty much my take on it.
So you were baffled, sir. All right.
I was,
Baffled.
yeah, I could see they were sort of setting it up for something else, and I'm just like, I don't want more of this.
No. All right, Christopher G. Moore, sir. What was your first impression of Firestarter?
Yeah. This I think I was baffled as well. I'm kind of baffled to even know what to say about it, because I think this film feels like a lot of times when they remake stuff and they try to make some flashy version of it, and it just feels like it's all plastic and nothing else. And I think I mean, I will say that the Carpenter score, it's the best part of the movie.
Especially toward the end, so the final.
And I enjoyed all the music throughout. I think that's the strongest part of it. Everything else, feels like someone just pissed on the flame that is Firestarter, and how they went about it. I mean, the dialogue is very stilted, and in places it feels like, oh, we need to give information. The performances are very monotone. There's not, I mean, even though it's like there's things that happen that they don't react emotionally correctly. I feel like people would react a whole lot worse if someone you care about dies, or certain things happen, and there's none of that. And then they have characters they don't give. There's not much. They're not really fleshed out, other than just you expecting to sort of put two and two together by doing some 90s scene where you set music to somebody working out. There's things in it that don't make a lot of sense. And then the decisions that happen at the end don't make a lot of sense, especially with certain things that people did. Yeah, I think it's very it's I don't know. It misses it misses a spine. I feel like all the effort was put into sort of maybe showing more of the abilities. This feels more like a crappy Sony Marvel film than a Stephen King story. This feels like
interesting way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that this feels more like an X-Men type story. And granted, it has those elements, but it doesn't do it in the right way. It's not a good Marvel film, and it's not a good Stephen King film. So it feels loveless. There's not that. I mean, it's sad when you go back and I'll say the original Firestarter, not the greatest Stephen King, but at least it has the heart of Drew Barrymore. And I didn't really see that in this, but I think I didn't see it in anybody. I mean, we have a villain that's like about as boring as a villain can be.
Oh my God, you aren't kidding.
I mean, and it's like,
which one?
Well, and it's like,
All of them.
I mean, a lot of them, but I mean, you have a captain character who's but it's like, yeah, it's like you want to have a villain who's going to be just as impactful, and just it felt bland. It's like you want something that's going to be hot fudge chocolate cake, and it's just, oh, it's tofu. It's
Oh, well, that'd be a rude surprise.
but that's how it felt like. I felt like there's an opportunity to tell a good story with this, and I think with it being Stephen King, you can definitely, I mean, there's a few places where they go the horror route, because they go more into like, if somebody burns you, you're going to deal with certain elements of that. And I think the trailer made it even like it could be even darker than what it ended up being.
Mm-hmm.
it felt, yeah, it just felt loveless. It felt something was missing there. It's like yeah, to me it's like watching, instead of seeing a fireplace, you just see the fire, the replaying fire on YouTube on your
Yeah.
TV. That's what it felt like. It felt like flashiness without the heat. And yeah,
Mm.
that's my first impression.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I okay, so this film is incredibly frustrating. You know me, I actually think there's room for remakes. There's room to, revisit these classics and tell the story in a different way, in a modern way. And this film doesn't accomplish that. It's to me, it was perfectly fine. It was entertaining, but it's not memorable, right? It doesn't strike a chord. It doesn't get you invested in the characters. I think the way you put it, with no heart. It doesn't have a heart. It doesn't have a spine. It doesn't have, you don't connect with the characters. You don't connect with, Zac Efron's father to Ryan Kiera Armstrong's Charlie, right? You don't even feel that bond like you did in the original. And that was a big plus for the original, right? Was at least you felt the bond with the two of them. And yeah, I didn't think about that, but you're right. The antagonists, there's a couple, and just neither one of them really get the elevation, or the character that they need. They just weren't sinister enough, right? And they needed to be a little more sinister. But yeah, so I mean, I kind of wanted to like it, but it's lifeless. It doesn't. It does. I won't remember this version of it. I just won't. Yeah. It's not a good movie. It's not a good movie at all. I think you're right. Something went terribly wrong with this. I mean, Zac Efron in the lead is that's a draw. I mean, potentially, right? I thought Ryan Kiera Armstrong as Charlie. I thought she, did. She was a good choice. She looked like she could do it. She had the chops to do it. She's got experience. And they went with a little bit more authentic Rainbird character than George C. Scott, right? And so it had the right I don't know, it had the right approach, and then something in the, I don't know. Do you think this is, did the director and the writer and did they just fail to produce something good, or do you think there was some studio involvement? What do you think? What happened here?
I don't think there was. I feel like there was. Well, I don't know if there was. I can't say. I don't know if there was studio involvement, but it definitely felt like they were trying to think of the possibilities of where they could take the story outside of this story, and I don't think that's what the source material was concerned with.
Mm-hmm.
I think there might be a later Stephen King book where he sort of delves into like a school for. Isn't there like a book or a novella that he wrote where there's something where students who have powers or something like that? I think he's managed to keep that going. I could be wrong, but I thought I read somewhere that that was the case. But they might be looking into expanding on that whole element. But I just kept thinking of Firestarter Rekindled, the TV movie that
Mm-hmm.
came out quite some time ago. But and that had some tension in terms of, I think, characters who were Lot 6 survivors were getting killed off, and it was kind of, there was some thriller aspects to that element. This one tried to play that up a little with like the scene where are we getting into spoilers, or can I?
We are in spoilers, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, when when the mom, because that's like the famous moment in the original. It's like they come home and she's no more. So for us to actually see it, I thought there was some tension there. But and it was interesting with the Rainbow casting. I never disliked the George C. Scott casting. But I was too young to know that it was wrong, because that was the '80s, and that's how '80s casting was.
We were used to it throughout the '70s,
Right, and thinking about it and reading a lot of articles about how people are looking back on it and how problematic in the casting, it made me wonder, I wonder if Will Sampson was ever approached, or if he just didn't like the character and decided. You never know. Like, that's one of those things where
You never know.
maybe he just decided, or maybe he wasn't even thought of. But sorry to ramble, but I was just it. I agree that it just kind of had this lifeless feeling to it, and it really needed a pulse if it's gonna engage you with this story. If it's really about the father and daughter, just avoiding the dangers of the world while trying to sort of not hurt
Well,
anyone. It's just,
I'm going to go out on a limb here and just say, and I'm going to anger a lot of Stephen King fans, but is it possible that this story just doesn't hold up well? Didn't age well? It doesn't have the relevance today in the MCU universe that we watch in movies now?
Yeah, but a similar story was told in Stranger Things. 11 is almost like the girl in Firestarter.
it's pretty much,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Brightburn is another story that has similar elements.
Mhm.
So it's like there's a way to tell it, but I think the problem is there's so many missing elements. There's the characters feel so disconnected.
Mhm.
Like we're in Spoilerville, but if your mom is dead, I think you'd be a little bit emotional about that.
Mhm.
Then what happens? And then like there's like a 3-minute scene where she learns how to do her powers in the woods. It's like I think things need to build. You know what I mean? And then you have a father who's the worst father ever. I feel like it should have been a little bit more. And I don't know how the book is. I feel like maybe the previous movie dealt with a little bit where he's actually helping to test her powers or whatever. But I don't know. I feel like he's the reason that all the shit happened.
Yeah.
I feel like if he'd actually taught her properly, I don't know. There's just, and then just other decisions like, oh, you're just going to hitch a ride. This is 2022 now. It's like, there's so many decisions these people make, and then we go to the farmhouse and what happened to the guy? Did they kill him too? He just got shot in the leg, but is he just still laying on that porch, with his wife needing help? It's like there's so many things that infuriating story wise. There's so many loopholes to what's happening that it doesn't make sense.
Like it needed that little extra bit of development.
Yeah, it needs some extra development.
Well, it's like, and then I guess their big thing, like, ooh, we're gonna give them contact lenses that allow them not to be mind controlled. Ooh, I don't know. It's like and then like these villains that are just so like 2-dimensional, like the captain woman. And she's so. I think we were joking before the podcast. It's like she just. Like she was some person they threw on Saturday Night Live had to read cue cards for the first time. It's so like wooden, to where it's like I feel like she's being mind controlled to say these things because it doesn't seem natural.
Well, there's no menace, right? Even though she's supposed to be large and in charge, there's no menace. You didn't feel, that she had any authority or any menace. Even in the final scene with the three of them. The father, Charlie, and her, when he's captured and she's beside him, Captain Hollister, it just didn't. It had no tension at all, and that should have had an enormous amount of tension. Charlie was going to have to make a very tough decision, and I didn't feel like that weighed on her at all, and I didn't feel any there was the Captain Hollister didn't feel like she had any authority, and it was really that scene. I think undermined the entire movie. It was already kind of shaky, but that scene could have like given it some weight at the end, right? But it totally, just with a fart in the wind, it just went away.
Well, it's weird how she's almost like playing good cop, bad cop, but not well on either side, And I think there's moments where as much as I think some of the acting's wooden, I think the best moments for me is when the actual little girl gets evil, like when she's in that car with that guy. That to me, that's a pure menace part of it, it doesn't
like maybe if they leaned in on that more,
and
not needed her, without her being hypnotized, pushed
and
by her father.
Yeah, and without having to put the hoodie on.
I wasn't sure what that was all about.
I was like,
was it to keep her hair down? So
I don't know.
I don't know. That to me, it felt kind of worrisome. It felt very like school shooter-ish, and I was like, oh, crap.
something was,
I guess they meant it to be cool, but it gave a different connotation watching that. But yeah, it's like things like that. It just didn't really.
Maybe they
and
just
then
didn't want
like,
to do the fan thing with the hair.
well, yeah, and I don't know about you guys. What's it, I forgot the Native American guy. What's his name?
Rainbird,
Rainbird.
Michael J.
Rainbird,
Grey
yeah.
Eyes played him.
Yeah, he killed her mom.
Yes.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, okay. We're friends now. You can carry me." It's like, what is happening? There's no
No context for that.
there's
That
no
really happened, yeah.
context to that at all. So it just felt like
It's not
ooh,
like-
we're gonna create a cool. I heard that supposedly Stephen King likes the ending to this better than his book, which
Yeah.
I think he might have been back to drinking again if that's the case.
Yeah.
But
Well,
don't know.
I mean, okay. So to talk
Well, if it
about the
means a
scenario,
franchise that needs more money.
yeah, but I mean that ending. I mean, what they decided to do with him, there you could craft a scenario where that would work, right?
You could,
But they did not
this
do
is not
that.
that movie.
They didn't do it. They
There-
didn't.
there's
make
no
any
element-
effort.
There's no point where there's any kind of where this arc goes to this. It goes from
Yep.
1 to 10 automatically.
Yeah,
Right.
because you don't know if she's fully embraced evil and to join him, or if he's, had, regrets and he's, asking for forgiveness. You don't get any of that. Like, if it came to him like, accept me or fry me kind of thing, right? There needed to be more of a decision on her part other than just, a hand reaching out. It was more like, okay, I know what I did. I'm sorry. We've got to change this. There could have been this a really interesting dynamic between these two characters, but it just kind of happened, and it was like, and then it ends, and it was like, what the fuck? This is stupid.
Yeah.
What you gotta end on a strong note, and that was not it. That was like a whoopee cushion.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
sat there for a few minutes just thinking about what I just, that last moment. I was like, did I just see that? Did that really just happen? And why didn't that make sense? And
Well, and I think if anything, it made me wonder where maybe there's scenes cut from this that give
There
more,
has to be. There has to be. I really
background
do.
and details to that, because it just felt like a 180 from what had happened, because there was no I mean, other than maybe, I guess before he kills the mom, I guess maybe she taps into his brain or something. I don't know.
Well,
But it's like, still, I'm not really sure if, I don't know. It's like that to me. That's just bad. That's bad screenwriting. It's bad storytelling. That there needs to be a reasoning why we get from A to B, and there was none of that.
and from both characters too, because that's a very dramatic change in both of their characters, and there needs to be some plausibility, some meaning, and there's a perfect opportunity for both of their arcs to crisscross at that moment, but they don't.
And it's like, also
coincidence.
there's opportunities for other things too, because when he has that little speech about, like, you need to realize some of these people have families and stuff. That guy in the car, he was on the phone talking to, I guess, his wife about her being in the 3rd trimester.
mhm.
I mean, I could have easily seen that as a moment. It's like, hey, I have a wife, she's pregnant. I mean,
Mhm.
that felt like a moment that information could have been delved, instead of turning him into like a human schmore.
Yep.
So was it implied that Rainbird like sort of brought her there? Like he was the one that called her, and was it to set her father free? Was it so he could kill her or she could kill him? Or I wasn't sure.
That was a little shaky, but yeah, I did get the impression it was him, not.
Because
No.
and I read the book years ago. I don't recall it all, but I can only reference back to the original movie. But the idea behind his character was that he believed that if he killed her, he could get her powers or something, like it would
Mhm.
transfer to him or some sort of.
I do remember that. Yeah.
It was, and it was done in it was very unsettling, the whole idea of wanting to kill the child. But here it felt like they didn't really tap into any of that, and he just sort of you couldn't tell if he was
Yeah. I mean,
programmed or was he
Well,
regretful.
there needed to be some kind of reasoning. I think if he, like, absorbed powers or whatever,
Right.
that would have been a good reasoning to the Highlander effect. It's like, I take
Right.
your power and I'm stronger. or what was it, the Jackie, is it Jet Li or Jackie Chan, where he has to keep killing versions of himself to become more powerful. But if there was that would be a reason.
I was
but there
thinking
was
Heroes there for a
well,
second.
yeah, well, that's true. But I feel like there was no reasoning other than just him like, well, I'm not gonna let these white people have
Well, there wasn't any conflict.
That's what it felt like. It's like, it's a weird way to
there needed to be some inner conflict with this character, and I recall that. I haven't watched the original in a long time, but I feel like the George C. Scott character expressed that a lot better. And I don't think we should compare it to that, but the point I'm trying to make is that inner conflict was needed to be in this character. You know, that he does what he does, but you know, to do what he did at the end of this film, he just needed to have some kind of something to drive him. And so the motivation was off. And what happened to Zac Efron? This is really not a good performance from him.
I was fine with the performance. I just thought that the writing wasn't good for him. Like, I know he's been trying to break out from his sort of Disney teen beat years and all that sort of stuff. And he's been doing some pretty good stuff.
Oh, he's been doing some great stuff. I mean, some of the recent films he is fantastic.
Yeah. I think there's some elements that were okay, but then I think the writing ultimately just sort of fails him. So I think it's really down to the writing and what happened with the characterizations and lack of motivation and heart. I mean, I read a lot of critics, a lot of reviews, and the first thing they say is, how much the original one was this or or whatever.
It's a little campy, but yeah, it works.
I mean, I grew up with it, so it was, maybe it's more of a nostalgia factor. And my on a personal level, like, my dad had passed away like the year prior. I got to see it on cable, so I had this sort of like kinship with the Charlie character and Drew Barrymore, growing up with her, as a peer, that sort of thing. So I've always appreciated just the heart of it. I've never envisioned it as a scary film. I've just always thought it was more of this, paternal, father-daughter character, this character arc, and the forces of evil just trying to tear that apart. And that's where there was potential here, and they just didn't really do anything with it. Like when he ultimately dies at the end or sacrifices himself, I felt nothing. I was like, oh, okay.
I felt nothing at all.
And neither did she, because she didn't have to. He took that out of her. So he took, he took away that moment, and I just kept seeing all the other two films while watching this, and just trying not to compare. But it's hard when this one's not really giving you much, and I don't know. It just didn't have that Stephen King feel.
It didn't feel like a Stephen King story at all. That's kind of where I was going earlier. It's like, maybe this isn't one of his better works.
Well, no,
it's a little more it's definitely more developed on the page, and I think the first one is definitely more of a Stephen King feel to it, because there's lines of dialogue that's like, oh yeah, that's clearly Stephen King, and things like that. This one didn't try to reference any of that or bring any of those little character flourishes. It was just sort of maybe a little in the Irv character, but not much. By the time we finish with Irv, he's on the floor and just I don't know.
That didn't work at all. That whole thing didn't work.
Because I was thinking, I wonder who they're going to cast as Irv, if it was going to be like David Keith, or is it Keith David? I'm trying to always think.
Yeah, I get him.
I was like, this would be a good chance for the one of the original stars to come in and play Irv or something, like a cameo or something. And nope, there was a memorial hospital. Dr. Pinchot, that was one of the doctors in the original film. I guess he's in the book, but he's the first one who gets fireballed in the original movie.
And okay, is this like the most understaffed facility ever? I was like, the action is so flat. I mean, the farmhouse scene was kind of lackluster, and then this scene where she's coming, breaks in, and then later has to escape is just like, other than the car scene with the one guy on the phone was, I thought that was one of the better handled scenes. But after that, it just kind of like, liar, liar, pants on fire. Come on. I mean, I get it. I know why you're doing that. But
I mean, even X-Men 2 ripped off the farmhouse scene with the cars and, getting exploded. It was like, there was none of that here. It was just like a sniper, And then the woman that comes out at the end in the facility, it was like, should I know her? Like, she's not. Was she an agent? Was she a
She just
prisoner? Was she
it
like,
was
who
just
was she?
bad timing, bad luck. Yeah.
Yeah. She wasn't wearing
Well,
like a
And then
uniform.
the whole guys with the suits. It was like, oh, okay, this looks no, it's not interesting at all.
No,
This is dull.
it's like, hey, we
well,
got her, folks. You know?
well, but I also find it funny that she can heat people within from within. So I'm not exactly sure how just because you have outside heat protection, how that would protect her insides. But I don't know. Maybe they have something underneath it or something to protect from her brain waves. I don't know. There's a lot of there's a lot of stupidity where you're like, okay, this is a Blumhouse movie, so we're limited in what we can do production wise. They have a million
Right.
people in this facility.
I mean, well, they could repeat some of these people. Who would know who those 5 were? Maybe they did. Maybe there was only 5 they once you killed earlier. I don't know. All right. I think we're getting a pretty clear impression that this is a hot mess. All right, let's get into this and find out our final thoughts. Oh, I'm dodging tomatoes at the moment. Our final thoughts are scored with the 5 and our favorite scene. Brian W. Smith, you start us
Oh
off.
wow. You always make it hard.
Nah, welcome to
Let's
the
see.
show.
Well, it's definitely not a 5. It's not a 4. It's not a 3. So I guess I'll be fair and say 2, just on account of I mean, the Carpenter score was fine. I just feel like and this is the age of Stranger Things and countless other sort of 80s throwbacks that by this point, and I love John Carpenter. I love seeing him live and hear his music, but I feel like a lot of his stuff is not necessarily as distinguishable as his earlier stuff. But here it was fine. It sounded good. I just feel like I've heard so many sound alikes of the type of music he's putting out now that it's no longer distinguishably John Carpenter.
It wasn't presented well in the movie either.
Yeah. I think I mean the original, of course, I hate to compare, but I mean the original is so Tangerine Dream's movie. It's just it's that soundtrack. It's just it's embedded in my brain and my psyche.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
It carries the movie. It focuses on the heart of the story, and I think that's a lot of where the heart comes from in the original. Here, obviously, if you're going to go sort of just like the droning, I like the stuff when when she's towards the end before the big battle, but even then, it's not much of a battle. It's the music's carrying it along, but the scene as it's happening is just kind of like, eh. So I overall I'll give it a 2, just mostly for the music.
It sounds like a very weak 2. Did you say a favorite scene?
Oh, favorite scene. Jeez.
Gotta be one in there somewhere.
There's gotta be. Yeah, there has to be. I'll say oh man. I guess the school bathroom scene, that was
Yeah.
I mean, it was okay. It was a start to like there was potential. So, it wasn't much, but there was potential there.
Okay. We'll give you that. We'll give you that.
This movie.
Christopher G. Moore, sir. Your final thoughts, your score, your favorite scene.
Yeah, somebody cut the gas line on this film. This is one of those things just like, oh, it's a movie. No, it's cake. It's missing a lot of the elements. I think we were talking about earlier about like the Stephen King aspect of it. I think the best Stephen King adaptations feel like it's an embodiment of his work, even if it's putting a spin on it.
Yep.
This one feels like, let's take a Stephen King novel and let's just do something that's like lifeless and doesn't have all the elements that make it a Stephen King movie. And I think regardless of what people may think about Stephen King's writing, he makes memorable characters, he makes memorable pieces of dialogue. It creates memorable scenarios. And I think that's one of the things that's kind of missing from this. And granted, I'm one of those people that I love the 80s movies, and I think to me, it's like, I think the previous Firestarter movie, I mean, you have Drew Barrymore, and I think she kind of she feels real in that, you know, and feel and you and this one, everything feels very like Stepford Wives, you know. It's very
Interesting.
Westworld. It's kind of robotic to some degree, and you know, and just throwing a bunch of heat waves around the screen isn't going to is not going to win us over if you don't have the heart of what the story is about. And there's just a lot of decisions story wise that don't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of story beats. There's a lot of story information that it's either clumsily given through small pieces of dialogue, but that isn't like really is not really meaty enough to really fully inform the characters or their motivations. And there's certain motivations just, you know, like Harry Potter just showed up and waved his magic wand. It's like, you're a good guy now. And that doesn't make any sense. So yeah, Firestarter is a non-starter for me.
Non-starter.
And I mean, I will say positives, the score, and there's a few moments where it kind of taps into where it could go or more. I mean, to me, the more interesting thing is like where she's sort of like Brightburn, where she's fighting with the evil aspect of it. Because we get that one part. It's like when I feel it, I feel good, and I'm like, ooh, that one. Let's tap into that.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
I mean, because that's something we, you know, that we see in a lot of Stephen King stories in general, where you're having to give in. Do I need to, you know, ooh, but being good's bad or being good, blah blah blah. So I would love to see that a little bit more. So I'll give it. I mean, I've seen a whole lot worse stuff lately. So there's certain things that kind of make me think, okay, I like that. So I'll give it a similar 2.
Okay, fair enough.
Which is good for me when I don't like things a lot. Especially if you see a little recent reviews lately. But as for favorite scene, I mentioned it earlier. I like the scene where she confronts the guy in the car. How she's just sort of trying to get information, and just how that ending is like, oh God, the guy's all burnt out and he turns his head. It's like, oh shit. Well, now we're playing with fire. So I think that's probably, I mean, if there's more moments like that, it'd be interesting, because I think other than, I think in the past, you just so fired, you wouldn't show the end product of that. Like when she, you know, causes your mom to catch her arms to catch on fire, and you see how badly her arms were, and the dad's like, ought to be okay.
No.
Neosporin on that'll go away. No,
Saran wrap.
She's gonna die from 4th degree burns, dude. Anyway, yeah, the car scene's my favorite scene.
Yeah, it's kind of is a highlight. Yeah, so okay. I was never like, because I watched it on Peacock, and you know, if you don't, the thing about the theater, if you're there, it's a lot more to get up and walk out of a theater than it is just to go over and turn your TV off, right? Or just a knob. I'm showing my age. Just a button. But I never felt that. I never felt the desire that I was like, okay, this is so bad, I don't want to watch the end of it, right? I don't think it was that bad. And a lot of people have been saying it's that bad. I was entertained. It was fine, but it felt more like a movie of the week kind of approach. And the only reason it's rated R is because they wanted to drop F-bombs everywhere. I mean, they had that one scene, Christopher, that you're talking about, but even that scene is just like a strong PG-13 scene. It really didn't feel R, right? And it's just that they have like F-bombs everywhere. It's like, and the movie didn't need F-bombs. I'm fine with F-bombs, but this could have been a PG-13 movie, and it would have been fine. But it just never, to paraphrase what everybody else has been saying, it never gets that spark, right? It never really captures your attention in a way that gets you invested in the characters and in the story, which is a shame, because I felt like I had been before. And I'm just wondering, if, and what I was alluding to earlier is that, because of Heroes, because of Stranger Things, and all the superhero, is this not strong enough anymore? Have people taken the ideas that were in here and milked them for all they're worth, and now when we come back to them, it's kind of like, well, we've done all that already before, and you didn't really do anything special or new with it. You tried to kind of jazz up the end a little bit, but it didn't work. And then, like you said, a lot of the performances are very wooden, and they're kind of like equally wooden. It's really weird. It's like every actor's working on the same very small scale of up and down, right? It's not quite monotone, but it is pretty damn close, especially for Captain Hollister, who should have had some growl in there, some kind of menace. But anyway, I like this movie a lot better than that before starting this discussion than I do now. So I'm actually going to drop my score down to 2.25. I don't do that a lot, do I, Christopher?
No,
I do not do that a lot.
Not.
Usually I will
you
bump
may
it
go
up, but I rarely go down. And this it's still a candidate for the worst of the year, even with that score. It still might, just because of the failure of it all. And I don't know. I don't want it to be, though. I'm still optimistic after seeing this horrid thing. Anyway, so my favorite scene. What would be my favorite scene if you guys took the only ones that are worth it? The cat scene. I thought the cat scene was effective. Because it scratches her and she reacts, and it's a triggery moment for a lot of people who are very strong about animals, but it's very important for this character to learn focus on her powers, that emotionally reacting is going to not necessarily give her so it's a very important in her arc, and I thought it was handled really well and effectively. And then she just goes and blows up birds. Whatever. I guess she didn't, but she did use the same technique on the guy in the car, though.
Yeah, I was worried she was going to make some fried chicken.
Right.
Later on. But she's like, "Can I play with the chickens?" It's like, "Oh no."
I think there was a throwaway line, right? Don't cook them. He said that to her, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
I think they did say that.
The father said it, yeah.
Oh my!
I wonder if maybe the film just leaned into more of a conspiracy thriller type of tone rather than just trying to go for the Marvel
something
type of thing.
Something. It needed to not even have that superhero line in there. It needed
right.
to
It
really need to go in, like you said. It needed more character development and more. The conspiracy element would have been interesting. Yeah, and that could have also helped the Rainbird character as well if he was anti-conspiracy.
Well, you know what? I thought this movie was PG-13. I didn't realize it was R.
It was rated R. It was just because of the F-bombs. Yeah.
Because there's a part where the liar pants on fire. They cut away.
They cut away. Yeah.
They showed the end.
Ashes. There's a bunch of ashes, but
I wanted to see her pants catch on fire.
It was so like anticlimactic in that moment.
It was.
Like, wait, is that her? It's like a cartoon. She was like a cartoon, character laying there.
I know. It
like Daffy Duck after she got dynamited or something.
Yeah, it felt like something you'd see in Beetlejuice. It didn't really
Yeah, that was weird. That was very, very weird.
Because I was still asking the question, who was that?
It's like, so that's how you get an X rating or NC-17 rating, is that you have shows person turning into whatever that was.
I don't know. But there you go. There's our review for Firestarter. Let's hope Salem's Lot bodes better in the fall here or late summer. We'll see. Well, you know me. I'm optimistic until the very end. Am I not?
Well,
you
are.
It's the It team, right? So maybe they'll lean into the Stephen King of it all and be really
well. And I think Salem's Lot. Well, I think Salem's Lot is something that can be done well, I guess.
Well, but because it's also going from TV to the.
But I will say, it has a scene in the TV movie that has always creeped me out with the brother outside the window.
Yep.
That I actually, in my film Disengaged, I kind of copied a scene from. and I'm wondering how they're going to be able to top that scene, without just recreating it.
And there's a couple more. I mean,
there's stuff in the book with because there's stuff in the book that's pretty good. I'm looking forward to seeing it realized. Of course, they left some stuff out of it that were in the book that I was looking forward to, but we'll see what they do here.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. It's got to be better than this one, right? So let's go with that. All right. Yeah. Thank you for listening to this review. Christopher, Brian, thank you for joining me. This, believe it or not, it still was fun.
Well, it's always fun to talk about movies, even if we have different opinions, or even if we don't like it as much. It's just good to talk about movies in general. And by the way, go check out Prodigy's Firestarter on YouTube. Watch the music video, and then you'll get the reference, and then you'll feel like you're in the know.
There you go.
And I think there's a fan video for the original Firestarter set to that song, so look that up, and it's fun. If not, then I'll have to put it together.
There we go. There you go.
You should put one together with this new movie.
Oh my God.
I'm good.
All right. Well, let's say good night, guys.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.